Hello, everyone. My name is Andrés Moral, and for years, I served as a sergeant in the Mexican Army. My platoon was assigned to a peace mission in northern Sudan. The year was 2012, and the world outside burned with conflict few truly understood. We deployed, naive in our conviction, believing we were bringing humanitarian aid, protecting village forgotten by government and, seemingly, by God himself. We were young, some fueled by faith, other by righteous anger, but all of us clutching the same fragile hope, to return alive. No one warned us that in that desert, you don't just lose your body, you lose your very soul. I remember the day of departure. The air reeked of metal, fear, and fuel. My mother stood there, her small and trembling, clutching a dark wooden rosary. It was so worn, UTS bead smooth as wax. Her voice, a fragile whisper, told me, take this with you, son. It won't save you from the fire, but it will remain you who you are. I nodded, more tous par her pain than from any personal conviction. He was never a man of prayer. He believed in iron discipline, in calculated strategy, in the raw power of training. Yet, he tucked that rosary into the inner pocket of my uniform, close to my heart a fragment of omamite impending chaos. The flight stretched on, en interminable void. Below, the sky seemed an inverted ocean, boundless and devoid of solace. We touched down on a makeshift airstrip, swallowed by dust and an oppressive silence. Sudan was a land without horizon, where the sun pressed down with almost physical weight. The sand, fine as powder, invaded every crevice, chapping lips, stinging eyes. Some soldiers jested to stave of thought, other mumbled prayer. He simply observed, some team catching fleeting glimpses of figures shimmering in the heat like breeding mirage. The initial days blurred into a haze of confusion. Hors duty, patrolling village, guarding food convoy, rescuing the wounded from tribal skirmish. Everywhere, fear, anger, and silent plea for help etched themselves onto face. This wasn't a declared war, it was an open wound, festering in the heart of the land. Each night, back at camp, I sit outside my tent, gazing at the sky. The stars, countless diamonds, seemed close enough to touch, yet everything felt impossibly distant. It was on one such night that I first heard whisper of the little chapel. Karim, a young local translator, recounted tales of an abandoned chapel within the ruin of a Christian village to the east. Missionary built it decades ago, he explained. But now, no one dare approach. Some say it's cursed, other, blessed depend on who tells the tale. That single word, blessed, snagged my attention. I couldn't explain why, but en urgent désir to see this place ignited within me. Something deep inside needed to understand why people still prayed amid such a hellish landscape. One afternoon, after a grueling patrol, I secured permission to seek it out. My rifle slung over my shoulder, the rosary I hidden waked in my pocket, I trekked through the swirling sand and persist wind. The chapel stood half buried, a humble structure of mud and wood. A crude wooden cross jutted from ETS roof, leaning precariously, half bearing ETS on immense burden. He stepped inside, unsure what he expected. The air within was strikingly different cool, profoundly silent. On the small altar, dimly illuminated by a crack in the ancient wall, an enraged painting of the Virgin Mary. Her image was faded, yet her those eyes seemed to follow my every move. They held an immense sorrow, but also a tenderness that utterly disarmed me. I don't know how long he remained there. Outside, the wind howled, inside, only silence. Without conscious thought, he knelt. He offered no prayer, spoke no word, he simply breathed. For a fleeting moment, he felt something ineffable, I found a sin presence gazed into the depth of my soul. He touched the rosary in my pocket, and my mother's word echoed. I emerged, the sun bled across the horizon, painting the desert in hue of fiery red. For the first time since my arrival, he felt no fear. That very night, a surprise attack plunged us into chaos. Explosion ripped through the air, shoot filled the darkness, smoke choked us. He watched many day trained with, many day known since the academy, fall. We fought to repel the insurgents, but their number overwhelmed us. Amid the deafening maelstrom, a grenade landed perilously close. I remember the blinding flash, the concussive roar, the gut-wrenching impact. Then, nothing but blackness. When he awoke, silence had fallen, thick and suffocating. The coppery stench of blood and dust assaulted my nostril. I struggled to move, but my body refused to obey. I forced my gaze downward, my legs were gone. A profound void, the deepest a man can ever know, swallowed me whole. I screamed, but only a rasp escaped my throat. Then, through the swirling smoke, something gleamed before me. It was the Virgin's image, the very one from the chapel, lying miraculously intact amid the wreckage, not a single scorch mark, not a speck of dust. And to the hair still smoldered, her painted face seemed to weep. Tiny tears, like glistening pearl, traced past down her cheek. I don't know if it was hallucination or miracle, but a gentle breeze swept across the devastated field, carrying with it the undeniable scent of rose. I closed my eyes, and a voice, impossibly sweet, resonated not from without, but from deep within my soul, do not fear, son. You have not lost your leg, you have only left behind your fear. And then, before oblivion claimed me, an immense peace settled over me, a tranquility so profound that even the agony could not breach it. I awoke in a makeshift medical tent, the slow whirring of fan mingling with the moan of the wounded. Everything was a blur. Sunlight pierced the torn canvas, blinding me in flash. My body felt leaden, throat parched, a crushing pressure in my chest suffocating my breath. I tried to steer, but pain, sharp as lightning, cleaved through me. That is when it all flooded back. I looked to the foot of my coat and saw only emptiness. My legs were truly gone. The doctor, a man with a weary face and a heavy accent, approached silently. Sargento Moral stated, his voice flat, we had to amputate to save your life. I'm sorry. No tears came, no scream escaped me. I simply closed my eyes. Everything within me extinguished. I couldn't comprehend how I continued to breathe when my world had vanished beneath me. For days, I drifted between sleep and consciousness, immersed in a cacophony of prayer in different tongues, soldier a sob, and the relentless buzz of flea. Some of my platoon were dead, others, like me, les mutilated. Some team, I heard terrifying voices calling me from neighboring co. One night, a fever clawed at me, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Father Esteban, the camp chaplainant old man with weary yet serene eyes. God has not abandoned you, song et murmure. Don't say that, Father, he retorted, my voice laced with bitterness. God wasn't there when the fire ran down on us. He didn't argue. He simply placed a small, lit candle by my bed. Some time, God revealed himself not in the noise, but in the profound silence. Listen for him. That night, the silence was heavier than the desert sand. He watched the candle flame flicker, questioning the very purpose of my continued existence. The pain was unbearable, but the emptiness was worse. The Virgin's image haunted me. Had it been a dream? A delirium born of trauma? I closed my eyes. Then, the air shifted. An impossible cool breeze drifted through the suffocating heat of the tent, carrying with it the purest scent of rose, so exquisite it stole my breath. I opened my eyes. The candle trembled as if alive. Before me, a silhouette materialized in the dim light, soft, luminous, both human and divine. It wasn't a mere flash, it was an indeniable presence. The figure drew closer. Her face, that of a young woman veiled in blue, was framed by highest same compassionate eyes he had seen in the chapel painting. They gazed at me with infinite understanding. I could say nothing. Tears streamed down my face, unbidden. She extended her hand and placed it gently on my chest. The warmth that radiated was not consuming, it was healing. My son, she spoke, her voice so soft the very air seemed to hold the ts breeze to listen. It was not you who lost, it was he who helped you when the fire soft to cling you. Your wounds are not a punishment, but beacon of love. The pain you carry will become a bridge for others who have lost their faith. He tried to speak, bu word cooked in my 3. He could only whisper, why me, mother? Why didn't you let me die? She smiled, a radiant down in her expression. Because you are not yet finished. What began in fire will end in light. Do not fear. I am with you. When you opened my eyes again, the figure had vanished. The candle still flickered, and the air still bore the ethereal scent of rose. He might have believed he was losing my mind, but then he glanced at the rosary on my table. One of its wooden beads shimmered, half containing a living spark. The following days crept by, yet something profound had shifted within me. The pain persisted, but it no longer consumed me. Without even realizing it, he began to pray no for miracle, but for understanding. The doctor marveled at the unusual speed with which my wound healed. It's as if the body remembers something we don't, one commented in bewildered awe. He simply smiled. Gradually, men from my platoon started visiting. Some came out of respect, others driven by raw curiosity. Rumor circulated. They spoke of an intact image found amid the wreckage during our rescue, and of a floral bracelet had swept across the battlefield. No one could explain it. One afternoon, Samuel, a young Kenyan soldier from my uni, sat beside my bed. He looked at me nervously, then whispered, "It's our brother. When we pulled you from the debris, there was a light above you, and you weren't burning. The fire surrounded you, but it never touched you. We all saw it." He was speechless. A shiver traced my skin. It wasn't just my hallucination. It wasn't madness. There were witnesses. The miracle wasn't just mine, it belonged to all of us. That night, as the camp slumbered, the chaplain returned. He found me awake, my gaze fixed on the flickering candle. "Father," he said, "she came. The Virgin came." He showed no surprise. He sat beside me and took my hand. "You know, son. When God allows his mother to visit Earth, it is because faith is dying. And you were her chosen one not to suffer, but to remind the world that light still exists amid the ruin." He wept, not from pain, but from something utterly new to me, peace. A peace so vast, it felt as though the entire desert could reside within its embrace. Days later, he insisted on being taken back to the chapel. The doctor dismissed it as madness, but the chaplain interceded. "Let him go," he urged. "Perhaps his soul need to walk, even if his body cannot." They lifted me into a military vehicle. The wind whipped at my face, sand seeped through every crevice, yet he felt en profound in a calm. He held my mother's rosary in my hand, each bead thrumming like a heartbeat against my palm. When we arrived, the sun was sinking slowly below the horizon. The chapel, too wounded, still stood. With Samuel's help, he entered. Everything seemed the same, except the altar now glowed faintly, half breathing. He knelt. He had no leg, but my entire being bowed before something far greater than life itself. He closed my eyes and prayed, not for anything, but simply, "Mother, if you are still here, do not let me forget." The air shifted. A gentle breeze coursait through the space, and again, the unmistakable scent of rose filled the chapel. Samuel crumpled to his knees beside me. On the wall, above the painting, tiny droplets of water began to form, sliding down like tears. They weren't condensation, they were real, warm, alive. The Virgin wept. In the weeks that followed, something inexplicable began to spread through the camp. Men who had been in the attack whispered of lights in the sky, of dreams where a woman in blue called their names. Some looked nervously, others prayed. He watched in silence, unsure if what he witnessed was a miracle or the onset of my own madness. Father Esteban visited me every morning, bringing bread and key wisdom. Some him, he said nothing, just sat by my bed, gazing out at the desert. "You know, son," he remarked one day, "miracles aren't always for those who witness them. Some him, they are for those who hear of them later. The important thing is to keep them sacred." HIS Word pierced me. I still felt unworthy to share what I experienced, but something within me was undeniably growing, a silent certainty, I face itself was drawing breath again. One down, Samuel burst into the tent, his eyes alight with urgency. Andres he exclaimed, you must come. The men want to pray. They say you must lead them. He stared at him, bewildered. Lead them? I'm no priest. You're the only one who saw he insisted. You're the only one who can. Outside, the sky began to bleed into gold. The desert awoke in a hush. They helped me into a vehicle, and we drove to high ground, amid the ruins of an ancien village. There, on a flat stone, they reverently placé a replica of the Virgin's image recovered from the chapel. Some men clutched rosary, other held simple piece of cloth. None knew how to pray correctly, yet all bore the clear, earnest gaze of those desperate for hope. We gathered in a circle. I, sitting on the sand with my unused prosthetic buzzed me, held the image in my hand. I am no saint, he confessed. Not even a good soldier. But if she listened to a broken man like me, she will listen to all of you. And so, we began to pray. The wind whispered, stirring eddy of dust. The sun beat down on our helmet, and the air humid with the sound of hot metal. Voices mingled some in Spanish, other in Swahili, still other in Arabica symphony of supplication. An entire platoon of armed men, kneeling, head bowed, praying to a virgin in the heart of the desert. None of us knew that this moment would irrevocably alter history. Suddenly, the ground convulsed. Distant détonation rattled the air. A plume of smoke unfurled on the horizon. A scout sprinted toward us, shooting, ambush. They were surrounding our position. Fear coursed through our veins like wildfire. Men instinctively grabbed their weapon, but roared, don't get up. Not now. I don't know why he did it. Perhaps it was instinct, or perhaps something deeper knew what was coming. Samuel stared at me, incomprehending. What do we do, then? We pray, he answered. We pray harder. The thunder of gunfire drew nearer. Bulle whizzed above our head. Some soldiers screamed, others openly wept. He raised the Virgin's image, holding it against the wind. Mother, protect them, he pleaded. Not for me, but for them. The sky darkened ominously. A searing blast of hot air engulfed us. A rocket slammed into the ground nearby, flinging us backward onto the sand. He felt the chest-crushing explosion, the deafening ringing in my ear, and en silence. When he finally opened my eyes, he saw scattered body, thick smoke, raging fire. Yet, amid the devastation, the Virgin's image stood defiantly on the stone, utterly untouched. He tried to move, but my leg remained numb. He looked down, and pain, sharp as a lightning bolt, tore through me. He wasn't alone. Samuel and several other men screamed, clawing at the sand. Their legs, too, were gone, ripped away by the blast. Chaos, blood, and sand swirled around us. Then, something impossible unfolded. The smoke choked air began to bloom with the scent of flowers. The ravenous fire consuming the ruins simply died down, without a drop of water or a gust of wind. A soft, blue radiance descended from the heavens, so gentle, yet so powerful, that none of us could move. Within that light, a feminine figure materialized, encircled by a golden glow. It was her, the Virgin. She floated mere inch above the ground, her bare feet grazing the sand as if blessing the very earth. Her veil stirred, took no breath stirred. Her eyes, filled with tears, yet her face radiated infinite tenderness. Every man stood transfixed, utterly silent, holding his breath. The Virgin glided among us. Her gaze paused on each wounded soldier. Wherever her eyes rested, pain dissolved into profound calm. Her voice resonated without sound, speaking directly to our hearts, my children, do not fear. These wounds you bear are proof of the greatest love. You die not for war, but for hope. Tears streamed down her face. Samuel tried to rise, but she gently touched his forehead. Rest, sonk, she whispered. It is not yet your time. Then, she turned to me, her gaze piercing me with both sweetness and power. Do you remember, Andres, when you asked not to forget? He nodded, trembling. Then listen. Every drop of blood shed here will not be in vain. From this parched earth, faith will spring, and from your broken body, life will be born. Around her, the light intensified, transforming the desolate daytime into a radiant dawn. The last ember of the battle were extinguished. And in the sand where blood had soaked, tiny blue flowers, fragile and utterly impossible, began to bloom. The Virgin raised her hand, and a luminous smile graced her face. Then, slowly, she dissolved into the brilliant light. Silence returned, but it was a silence profoundly altered. The mutilated, dust-covered platoon remained kneeling. For minutes, no one spoke. Some wept, others looked, a strange, guttural sound. Others simply stared at their absent leg, de voix of pain. We didn't know if we had been punished or blessed, but one thing was undeniable, we had witnessed the face of the divine. When reinforcement finally arrived hours later, they found us there, still praying, the image intact, and the sound of rose still lingering in the air. That same night, they evacuated us by helicopter. The air was cold, the whir of the rotor blending with the groan of the wounded. Some of my men were unresponsive, others murmured prayer. He remained silent, clutching the Virgin's image. He cared nothing for the pain, the lost leg, or the fear. Within me reigned a profound, unfamiliar calm. Upon reaching base camp, medics met us with shout and confusion. They demanded to know what had transpired, why so many were mutilated, why soldiers were they seen a figure in the sky. No one could offer a coherent answer. Military reports cited an unexpected attack and psychological effect of trauma and it. But those of us who were there knew the truth. Something sacred had descended upon us. In the ensuing days, medics observed something profoundly unsettling. The wound of the platoon healed with inexplicable speed. No infection, no fever, no persist pain. Doctors argued among themselves, utterly baffled. Even the most ardent skeptic eventually found themselves kneeling in prayer buzzed or co. The rumor spread like wildfire. Soldiers from other units arrived, drawn by curiosity, seeking to touch the image that had survived the inferno. One night, a young Honduran sniper entered the tent, knelt without a word, and wept silently for minutes. When he finally rose, his voice trembling, he confessed, he saw her too. During the fight, he thought he was going to die, and in that instant, he felt a hand on my shoulder. No one was there, but he knew it was her. News of the event ripped through the entire detachment. Our superior frantically tried to control the narrative, ordering silence, confiscating camera, forbidding any discussion of the incident. But it was futile. Word of faith, once ignited, travel faster than bullet. One day, the contingent commandé came to my tent. He was a hard man, with cold eyes, accustomed to giving order, not receiving them. He strode in with two officers. Sergent Moral et Began, I need you to tell me precisely what occurred on that hill. He made his gaze, unafraid. What occurred, sir, was a miracle. He frowned. We are not here to discuss miracle, but facts. Then write this in your report, he countered. The fire did not kill us because heaven covered us. The commander took a slow, deep breath, struggling to compose himself. You and your men are confused. The human mind sees what it wants to see amid horror. Perhaps he conceded, but then explain why your wound closed without treatment. Explain why the Virgin's painting bears not a single mark. Explain why the air smelt of flowers in the heart of hell. The silence grew thick, suffocating. The commander lowered his gaze. For a fleeting instant, he saw something he hadn't expected in his eyes, fear. Keep your face to yourself, Sergeant, he finally declared. Not everyone is ready to hear it. That night, Father Esteban returned, holding a small metal crucifix. Son et said, "The world is quick to fear what it doesn't understand. But the message you receive cannot remain. It is not for those who already believe, but for those who do. And how will he do that? He asked, deeper in my voice. He can barely even walk. Then you will speak, the priest responded, his voice firm. Something a man without leg can travel further than an entire army. His word pierced me to my core. For the first time, he understood that what we had experienced wasn't just for us. There was a profound mission hidden within the pain. Weeks turned into months. The men of my platoon slowly regained their strength. Some were transferred to hospital in Kenya, others repatriated home. He, however, requested to stay longer. He felt an inexplicable pull, a sense that he couldn't abandon this desert. The night had changed. Now, the wind carried a soft murmur, and occasionally, between the temps, that unmistakable scent of rose would reappear. One pre-dawn, while the camp still slept, he dragged himself to the entrance, drawn by the promise of dawn. The sky bled into purple, and on the horizon, the sun emerged like a golden wound. He closed my eyes and prayed, not for anything, but simply in gratitude. Suddenly, he heard footsteps behind me. It was Samuel. He sat beside me in silence. Do you ever think about what we lost? He asked. Yes, he replied, but also about what we gained. He nodded slowly. The other says the Virgin wept for us. I don't know, he said. Perhaps she wept not just for us, but for the entire world. We remained there for a long time, watching the sun ascend. Then Samuel pointed into the distance. Do you see that? He whispered. He lifted my gaze. In the distance, over the very hill where the battle had raged, a bluish light seemed to hover above the sand. Faint at first, it grew, expanding like a breeding aurora. It couldn't be fire, it wasn't a reflection. It was a presence. She's there, he breathed. Yes, Samuel murmured. She's waiting for us. My heart hammered against my rib. He understood then, this story was far from over. The apparition hadn't been an end, but a powerful beginning. Days later, he sought permission to return to that sacred place. The commandant initially refused, but Father Esteban interceded. Let them go, he argued. They're not going to war. They're going to find peace. And so, weeks after the miracle, we embarked on a pilgrimage back into the desert. We were few, Samuel, 2 local soldiers, and myself. We carried water, bandage, and the original image, carefully wrapped in a white cloth. As the truck lumbered through the dune, the wind sculpted towering column of dust, like ethereal and reaching out to us. He knew what awaited us there was more than just sand and ruin, something was calling to us, something that had begun with a prayer, an explosion, and the song of rose. And that voice, the same one he heard amid the fire, now whispered again in the depth of my soul, return, son. Where you left your body, you will reclaim your spirit. Our journey into the desert was even quieter than idea anticipated. The trucks will crunched over the sand, and the wind sang like an ancient lamb. Samuel drove in silence, while the 2 local soldiers murmured prayer in their native tongue, their word lost to the vastness. He held the Virgin's image on my lap, wrapped in the same white cloth we used to rescue it from the fire that night. ETS weight felt like the very heart of the world in my hand. With each passing kilometre, the landscape grew more hostile, more desolate. It was as if the desert watched us, awaiting our return. The hill where the miracle had occurred loomed in the distance, scarred by the blackened ruin of battle. Finally, we arrived. The air felt different, heavy with an invisible presence. We disembarked without a word. No one dared shatter the profound silence. He advanced with difficulty, dragging my prosthetic through the sand. Samuel walked beside me, clutching a crude wooden cross. When we reached the precise spot where we had prayed before the attack, a shiver ran through me. Everything was the same. And yet, it wasn't. The ground, scorched black by explosion, seem to pulse with life. Between the stones, tiny blue flowers, fragile and utterly impossible, had bloomed again. My God, Samuel whispered. Don't touch anything, he cautioned. Just listen. The wind died. Not a sound, no birds, no insect, not even the rustle of sand. Only a silence so pure, it was almost painful. Then, the air shifted again. A cool breeze descended, bringing with it a perfume of rose so intense, we all inhaled it simultaneously. The two local soldiers instantly fell to their knees. Samuel dropped the cross and covered his face. He lifted my gaze. A light began to form before us, no the sun, nor any reflection, but a white and golden clarity that seemed to emanate from the very earth. The sand beneath our feet gleamed as if it were liquid crystal. Within that light, a feminine figure slowly materialized. She was dressed in blue and white, her veil gently undulating as if in a phantom breeze. It was her, the Virgin. Her face was the same I had seen in the chapel and in my dream, but now she was more real, more vivid than ever. Her eyes shimmered with tears, and her expression was a blend of sorrow and tenderness that no human word could ever capture. We stood transfixed, utterly motionless, our breath caught in our throat. My had felt as if it had simply stopped. The Virgin took a few steps forward. Her feet barely grazed the sand, yet wherever she passed, tiny blue flowers instantly blossomed, as if the earth itself awakened beneath her presence. Her voice filled the air, without audible sound, yet we all heard it within our soul. My children, ye have come because the world has forgotten how to weep. Ye have come because love has grown cold in hearts, and face withers amid the ruin. You were my witness, not for war, but for mercy. Every wound you carry will become a light for others. Every tear you shed will be a seed of hope. Tears streamed down my face. He collapsed to my knees. Mother, he choked out, my voice broken, I don't understand why you chose us. We are broken men, sinner. She smiled with a tenderness that melted me, because my son chose not the perfect, but the willing. And you surrendered your body to protect the face of faith. At that moment, a warm gust of wind enveloped us. The light intensified, and the sky, previously pale, deepened into a profound blue, as if the heavens themselves bowed down to witness. The ground trembled softly. Samuel shrieked, Andres, look at your leg. He glanced down, utterly incrédulo. A tingling sensation surgit through me. My prosthetic detached, falling soundlessly onto the sand. In their place, flesh began to form warm, living flesh, bones, muscles, skin. Everything returned, as if time had simply rewound. In a matter of seconds, my leg were whole again. He screamed, not from fear, but from raw astonishment, from profound adoration. He staggered to my feet, then crumpled back to my knees, burying my face in the sand. Samuel openly wept, the other two soldiers trembled. One, a Muslim, pressed this onto his chest, murmuring in Arabic, Mary, mother of Isa, blessed be you. The Virgin gazed at us with infinite love. Her face remained tear-strict, but as those tears fell upon the sand, the dust transformed into light. These tears are not of sorrow, she declared, but of love. He wept because the hearts of men have hardened, and because the earth cry out for compassion. But he also weep for you, because your face, born from pain, will heal many. Samuel prostrated himself. Mother, what do you want us to do? She extended her hand, and a golden light enveloped us. Rise, she commanded, and tell what you have seen. Do not fear ridicule or do, for those who hear this story will feel the perfume of my presence in their hearts. Where my name is spoken with love, there he will be. The wind began to stir again, soft and warm. The light slowly ascended, dissolving into the air, like a dawn bidding farewell. And then, silence returned. He looked at my hand, my leg, the image is still held. Everything was whole, intact. The Virgin was gone, yet her presence permeated every grain of sand. Samuel slowly rose. Heaven came down here, brother, he said, his voice rever. And your ETS bridge. He had no reply, he simply gazed around. The desert, once a landscape of ruin and death, now shimmered as if breathing life. The impossible blue flowers remained. The perfume still lingered, and deep within my soul, her voice still echoed, soft and eternal, her face dwindled, son, there you will carry my light. News of the miracle spread faster than the desert wind. Within days, entire caravan of villagers began arriving at the site of the apparition. They trekked from distant settlement, enduring the scorching Saint-Somme limping, other carrying sick children, all drawn by an inexplicable force. No one summoned them. It was as if an invisible voice called to them from the very heart of the desert. He remained at the site, unable to tear himself away. My gaze was fixed on the hallowed ground where she had stood. The earth still shimmered faintly, and the scent of rose, took the blue flowers had withered, persisted in the air. Samuel and the other soldiers helped the pilgrim, offering water and organizing a space for prayer. In mere hours, that desolate expanse of ruin transformed into an impromptu sanctuary. As dusk fell, the horizon became a tapestry of flickering candles. Women chanted hymns in their diverse tongues. Men erected crude wooden cross. Children played near the phantom blue flowers. No one spoke of war, pain, or fear. It was as if the Virgin's presence had reawakened hope in every soul. But not everyone regarded the scene with faith. 3 days later, military vehicles rumbled onto the site. Officers disembarked, armed and barking order in multiple languages. Terrain was clear, disperse the crowd, control the chaos, restore order. They declared the site must be shut down, that religious gatherings were forbidden in a conflict zone. He pushed through the throng and confronted the commander Sam Man who, months ago, had dismissed the miracle. What are you doing here, Sergent Moral, et demanded, his voice harsh. I am simply safeguarding what heaven entrusted to me, he replied. Et scrutinisez-me, incrédule. They say you're walking again, he stated. They say your leg. I don't say it, sir. God says it, he interrupted. H.I.S. Gazardened. This must end. People are abandoning their duty. Soldiers are praying instead of obeying. We cannot tolerate this fanaticism. He raised a hand, signaling. A group of men advanced with fuel canister. They intended to burn the image. May had stopped. Samuel surged forward, placing himself between them. If you touch that image, he roared, you touch the mother of us all. The soldier hesitated, wavering. Impatient, the commander grabbed his rifle. If this idol is so powerful, let it defend itself, he snarled. And he pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed deafeningly across the desert. The bullet exited the barrel, but then it simply stopped, hovering mere inch from the image, suspended in the air. No one moved. The bullet slowly dropped to the ground, harmless. And at that exact moment, a light descended from the heavens, bathing the Virgin's face in a golden glow. The silence was absolute. Some soldiers dropped their weapons, others fell to their knees. The commander recoiled, trembling. My God, he whispered, what is happening? It is mercy, sir, he told him. Not vengeance. She came not to punish, but to teach that even the hardest hearts can learn to love again. The man collapsed to his knees and began to weep. Around him, his soldiers knelt too, and the entire desert seemed to breathe in unison with us. Voices began to rise, tentative at first, then powerful a chorus of prayer in many tongues, but with one unified meaning, thank you. From that day forward, the site was no longer a ruin. The villagers, with their own, rebuilt the chapel, using all brick, salvaged wood, and unwavering faith. The new walls became adorned with names, with promises, with countless and rosary. Every stone was laid with a prayer. Even some Muslims came to pray in key reverence. War, it seemed, had ceased to exist in that corner of the world. Father Esteban returned weeks later. When he saw me walking, his eyes welled with tears. The Lord H.A.S. made you a living sign et declared. But remember, son, miracle are not meant to be hoarded, they are meant to be shared. His word became my daily guiding light. Month passed, and the sanctuary blossomed. Doctor, journalist, and the merely curious arrived. Some came to investigate, other, to scoff. But no one left unchanged. Scientific report couldn't explain the regeneration of my leg or the spontaneous healing of countless pilgrims. The most ardent skeptic eventually found themselves weeping before the image, touched by something they couldn't name. He simply repeated the same message to everyone, don't seek proof, seek love. One night, beneath a desert sky ablaze with stars, he walked out alone. The wind was soft, and an unearthly peace permeated the air. He knelt before the Rebui chapel and prayed. Mother, your tears changed the war. What more can he do? A warm breeze enveloped me. He felt her presence, invisible yet profoundly alive. Her voice resonated deep within me, a gentle that first day, continued to love, son. Where love seemed impossible, there you want you to be. Where faith dwindle, carry my light. Do not fear loss, for he who love never truly lows. He wept, not from sadness, but from overwhelming fullness. The desert, once a tombe, was now a garden. Children looked, women sang, men prayed together. Life had truly returned. Since then, every time he recounted what he witnessed, he don't speak of himself. He speak of her of the mother who wept in the desert, who descended from heaven to remain us that even amid the fiercest fire, love can be reborn. And when Someon asks if he still feel her near, he close my eyes, breathe the song of the desert, and reply, yes. She is here. In every tear of love, in every forgiveness offered, in every life that rises again. And along a hydro breath, he will continue to speak her name, Mary, my mother, mother of us all. Many years have now passed since that pivotal day in the desert. The war eventually ended, or at least, UTS name changed. He returned to my country bearing the invisible scar of a man who had touched the eternal and returned to bear witness. For a while, he tried to resume a normal life, but nothing was ever the same. People called me the Virgin's soldier. Some regarded me with devotion, other, with derision. He learned not to react to ether. My duty wasn't to convince, but to remember. He began visiting church, hospital, prison. He had no prepared speech, only my story. He recounted how the fire failed to consume me, how the Virgin appeared amid smoke and tears, how love had ultimately conquered fear. Sometimes, I spoke, that some ethereal perfume of rose would fill the air. People would weep, embrace, reconcile. He knew then that the miracle hadn't ended, it continued to multiply in every heart that listened with faith. One afternoon, years later, a letter arrived, sealed with the emblem of the United Nations. It was an invitation to return to Sudan, to attend the official inauguration of the sanctuary built at the site of the miracle. He hesitated at first, fearing the memory would overwhelm me, that he would find only ruin and silence upon my return. But one night, I prayed, her voice resonated again, where your wound began, there now blossom my consolation. And he understood that he had to go back. The journey felt interminable. As the plan descended onto the very land that had witnessed my death and rebirth, a lamp formed in my Troa. The desert was still there, yet it was utterly transformed. Where dust and debris once lay, now stretched road, water wells, schools. And at ETS at, a simple, yet breathtakingly beautiful white temple, lovingly constructed by an of many feet. ETS walls bore hundreds of offering, crutch, letters, photographs, fragments of cloth inscribed with names and thanks in countless language. Entering the sanctuary, he found a vast multitude. Men and women from across Africa's soldiers and civilians, Muslim and Christian all praying together. The original image of the Virgin stood there, enshrined behind glass, her face serene, just as it had been that day. Her eyes, however, still seemed moist, folding the memory of her tears. A man in a brown habit, with a tranquil smile, appeared beside me. He recognized him instantly, it was the former commandé, now a free are. Et embrassed me tightly. Look what God has done, brother, et said, his voice trembling. What was once a field of death is now a land of life. We knelt before the altar. The fading light of sunset streamed through a crack in the roof, falling directly onto the Virgin's face. For a moment, time itself seemed to pause. I closed my eyes and spoke in silence, Mother, I am worthy of such love. I saw you weep for us, but now your tears continue to fall for a world that forget to look to heaven. What more can I do? And then her voice returned, soft as I carry on the desert wind, continue to love, son. Love when no one believe, forgive when all judge, and pray when the world falls silent. Where face dwindle, carry my light. Where war is born, sow peace. And always remember this, the tears you witnessed were not an end, but a beginning. Opening my eyes, the setting sun's light refracted through the glass encasing the image, casting a golden arch over the kneeling multitude. Children looked, adults sang, and the herons again carried the song of rose. He stepped out of the temple and gazed at the horizon. The desert stretched infinitely, but it no longer seemed empty. Every dune, every grain of sand, now breathed with hope. He felt the wind caress my face, a profound blessing. He walked aimlessly for a while, until he reached the exact spot where, years ago, he had fallen wounded. He knelt and touched the sand. It no longer held pain, it was warm, alive, if heaven itself pulsed beneath the earth. Thank you, Mother, he whispered. Thank you for weeping for us. The wind gusted strongly, raising a cloud of golden dust that enveloped me. And in that instant, he heard her voice one last time, do not fear, son. Allons a man remember how to love, he will be here. For every tear of mine is a promise of hope, and every soul that believes a flower born in the desert. He stood in silence, watching the sky ignite with the color of twilight. Shadow lengthened, and the temple in the distance shone like a star on earth. And he understood, with a certainty that needed no proof, that the true miracle wasn't that my leg returned, but that my soul learned to walk. As the sun disappeared, he prayed one last time, Mary, my mother, mother of us all. Thank you for not leaving us alone. And the desert, once more, smelt of rose. Outro music fade in.